Depth of field is the part of your photograph from front to back that is in focus. By changing the settings in your camera, you can control how deep or shallow this is. So when the depth of focus is deep, it will look like this. And when it is shallow, it will look like this. There are 3 ways to control how deep or shallow this is, or how deep or shallow it is perceived by your camera. With a kit lens, if you use the widest focal length, which is normally 24mm for a full frame camera and 16mm for a crop censored camera, the depth of focus will tend to be deeper, so more in focus than with a longer focal length. The longer the focal length, the easier it is to get that shallow depth of focus look. And that's when your subject is in focus and the background is out of focus. With aperture, the smaller you make it, the deeper the depth of focus will be. So with a lens at f16, it will put a lot of your photograph in focus, and that depth of focus will be really deep. However, if you open up your aperture, decreasing the f number, the depth of focus will become a lot shallower. Now, to really see how your camera shows this off, look down a wall or any object with details and take a shot at the 2 different apertures, and you will really see that difference. So with this first shot, I've got it at f2, and you can see that focus is really shallow. There's not much depth to it, and it's only focusing from this point to this point. Now if I change it to f16, you can see that depth of focus is much deeper, and it's focusing a lot further into the image. And in doing this test, you can see how deep or shallow you can get the focus by manipulating your aperture. The third way to control it is to think about your distances. If you and the background are fixed, try moving the subject closer to you and away from that background. If you can't move the subject, move closer to the subject to reduce the distance between you and your subject relative to the distance between the subject and the background. The closer your subject is to you relative to your background, the more you'll move your plane of focus closer to the camera. And the closer that plane of focus is to your camera, the shallower it will get. So if you combine all 3 of these elements by opening up the aperture, moving closer to your subject, and using a longer focal length, the more you can emphasize this shallow depth of focus look. Whereas if you want everything in focus, try using a wider focal length, a narrower aperture, and be further away from your subject. Now, if you want to learn more about your principal settings, click on this next tutorial here. And if you want to learn more about getting that blurry background, click on this tutorial down here. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for weekly tutorials every Monday and Thursday in photography. I'll see you next time.